if you're new to guitar and you've tried to learn a couple songs, you might have encountered what's known as a chord chart. So a chord chart is a shape of the chord that's supposed to be played. Understanding those can be a little weird. Essentially, you would see your 6 strings kind of lined up with these little boxes. Almost looks like a grid system. And it's essentially like reading the guitar like this. So you would see finger up here, finger down there, and then one right there. The shape looks a little weird, but partially because I'm holding my hand in a weird order, but you want your wrist to be pretty straight out, and this wrist kind of bends right here, the 90-degree angle. You want to be pretty relaxed though, so you try to avoid fingers looking like this or fingers looking like that, elbow in. So just go right straight on with the chord. But the first 2 chords we're going to look at are G and C. So for the C chord, we're going to slightly change it a little bit from the original, but that's the lesson for another time. So what you're going to start with is I would start with my middle finger. I'm going to put that all the way on the top string, 3rd fret. Then I'm going to find the next string below it, use my pointer finger. So I have this little stack. I've got a 3, then down a string to a 2. So once you get those set up, you can either use a ring finger or a pinky, whichever is the most comfortable. You want to go all the way to the bottom string and then find your 3rd fret as well. Remember, those frets are these little boxes. So that would be 1st fret, 2nd fret, and then 3rd fret. Cool. So once you get that down, go ahead and strum 1 string at a time, all over all 6. So I would go, just to make sure it's sounding good and it's all clear. But yeah. So once you get there, going from G to C is not too much harder. So all you're gonna do, you take this first little stacked shape up here, you're gonna strum it, and then I'm gonna move those fingers down 1 string. So they kind of move as a unit. First, you wanna try doing middle finger down and then index, and then backwards would be the same direction. But over time, you wanna be able to do this in 1 move, right? So they sound pretty good together. So I would do 4 strums on each chord and just practice the transition a few times. It's always a good idea to count as you play. Go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So for beginners, it's going to be a bit of a challenge to switch from one to the other. It's a little hard getting your fingers to do what your brain wants them to do. So what you can do, just to kind of close the gap a little bit, is do a 2 count between each chord. So I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1. Over time, you want to close that gap and get it to no counts in between. But until that point, just practice those 2 chords. But it sounds good. So now the next set of chords, we're going to do E minor to an A chord. So this is another kind of specialty A chord just for ease. So with the E minor, I have 2 fingers side by side. So imagine like doing a peace sign, putting them together, and they both go right next to each other. So my index finger, I'll lead with that one, that would be on my 5th string, 2nd fret, and then my middle finger is going to be the 4th string, 2nd fret as well. Once you get that one, go ahead and strum 1 string at a time, make sure everything rings out. Cool. So if you can get that, and it sounds good, same kind of thing. We're going to take our E minor chord, strum that 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to drag both those fingers down just 1 string. So kind of like the last one where I'm taking the little stacked shape and just bringing it down 1. And then you can strum those as well. Right? So it sounds really cool. You can just practice switching them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So those are the 4 chords we're going to be using. So now what's really cool about this, aside from learning a song, when you do songs, it would be a particular order. The length of time may change, but for you at this point, just practice experimenting with it. They all sound good together. They're all relatively in the same key. So I can just mess around. I can do maybe G like 4 times, and then go to C 4 times, since we already got that switch down. Maybe do the whole thing twice. And then maybe go to an E minor, kind of breaks up the pattern. Maybe I stay on an extra 4 beats and then go to an A. And then maybe a C. And then a G. Just start messing around with it, changing the order. See what you can come up with. So, not too bad. So, utilizing these chords in interesting ways is a good way to, for one, just start playing the guitar. You pick these chords up once or twice a day, even for just 10-15 minutes. So if you do 10-15 minutes every day for a week, these chords are going to get really easy, and it's a good jumping off point for the next set of chords. It should be a later video. But go ahead and practice them, see what you can come up with. Try to be experimental with it. Use your creativity to get around with it. You can do all kinds of stuff with the chords. Doesn't necessarily have to be 4 strums, for instance. I could take my chord and do 8 strums or 12 or whatever I really want. You can mess around with it.